sit in front of some lots, and we're always talking about buying land and building houses. And one of the big things is people see them going up. Obviously, it's not super complicated, or you wouldn't see dirt being turned in houses going up all over the nation in mass quantities. So there's a process and systems to it, right? The biggest problem is really when it comes down to profitability and expenses. And so when you're buying land and building houses, the whole objective when you do any business is to generate a profit. Now, my whole thing is, how do I maximize my profits? Since I was younger, everything that I've done, I've always talked about maximizing my profits because of the value of time. And so most people don't put any value on their time whatsoever. And that's a problem. So they say, okay, my time is worth $20 an hour, or my time is worth $50 an hour, or my time's worth $100 an hour working for somebody else. And so I've always had a hard time grasping that, because then you're limited on the real value of your true time, right? So like, God didn't make you and say, okay, here you are. Let me, you're valued at $40 an hour. You're valued at $15 an hour. You're valued at $350 an hour, or whatever that hourly wage might be. So all my life, I try to find ways to maximize profit. So in the means of real estate and buying land and building houses, it comes down to two things: expenses and profits. Expenses and profits. And so what makes what we do, buying land and building houses, profitable is our business model in what we do. So we also own a concrete company, and with that concrete company, we pour a lot of foundations and stuff in subdivisions similar to this all over the state of New Mexico. And I'll tell you that it's been a very lucrative business, but we've taken that capital and we've deployed it into building our own developments and into multifamily developments. And one thing that I've been really good at is finding costs that are conducive for my profitability and our business's profitability, so that we could pay a good wage, a better wage than most people, and give our employees a better lifestyle, and at the same time profit in a fashion where it gives us a better lifestyle and allows us to diversify our income and our portfolio. So I meet a lot of contractors, and a lot of times they're talking about scaling, doing 30 homes, 40 homes, 70 homes, 100 homes, and if they got to that, they would be so profitable. Well, I'll tell you that I beg to differ with that, because once you scale largely, what happens is it becomes very complicated to downsize. You create a monster of employees, and there's fuel that has to feed the beast being the company. And so one of the big mistakes people make is, one, they try to get started, they don't have any clue even where to get started on one home. And then when they do get one home, their confidence goes up, and they go, man, I can do 2 of these, and I can do 3 of these, and I can do 4 of these. And then they get to about their 4th one, maybe their 5th in 1 year. And I'll tell you, all alone, you could run about 6 homes a year, no problem. You know, it'd be a full-time job. You'd be dealing with permits, dealing with subcontractors, project management, all your stuff, and you could do it. And you would, invoicing, whatever you're doing, you can do 6 homes a year. You'll be working a lot, but you can do it. Now, you hire one admin, pay him about $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year. You hire one superintendent, pay him $80,000 to $100,000 a year, and you could scale to 10, 11 homes a year. 10, 11 homes a year, 3 employees. You can do that, and you can be a paper contractor where you sub everything else out. Now, one of the big things is, what is the financial viability and business plan to being able to make that happen? Well, in my eyes, I have to make 6 figures on every single house that I build. Well, how do you do that? Well, I'll tell you, in this incredible market, we've been making between 150 to 170 on every build, and in some areas, we're making as much as 300,000 on every build. But that doesn't happen in all areas. So I always say, if you can make $80,000 to $100,000, then you're at a really good place. Because if you build 1 home a year and you make $80,000 to $100,000, that's more than most people make in America, first and foremost. Plus, you could do it super part-time and on top of what you're already doing anyways. Now, how do you do that so that way you can make a profit? So I always tell people, Don't compete with the program builders, the master plan communities where they're going in like in mass quantities, and you see subdivisions with 200 homes going in. Don't compete against those guys. Those guys are doing volume. Those are the DR Hortons of the world. Those are the LGI Homes of the world. Those are the Toll Brothers of the world. Those are the big guys that are going in. They're publicly traded companies. They're doing mass volume. And then there's some of the smaller guys that still do mass volume. That's not the game you want to be playing. The game you want to be playing is building anywhere between 3 or even 1. You can start at 1. You can do between 1 and 10 homes a year. And then you make enough money. If you make $1 million plus net after you do 10 homes in a year and you scale to that, you have enough capital to get into multi-unit real estate and be able to have passive income. And that's where you start creating wealth. That's where you start creating affluency. That's where you start making a difference in what you're doing. Now, what's the business model behind that? Well, the business model behind that is to push just over the mean. So in the mass majority of the United States, and there's an exception to what I'm talking about here in certain cities and areas, and that's the benefit of people that are working directly with me, is that they learn those specific areas and how the fluctuation may skew depending on the areas that they're in. But anywhere between $450,000 and $750,000, you push out just outside of the mean, the median of the mass majority of people, where the median family home right now is selling for $350,000 nationwide. I don't want to be in that market. I want to push out of that market, push it to $450,000 to $750,000 range. Once you push over the $750,000 range, now you're superseding the mass majority of our population to a point where the people that want to be wealthy and they're trying to pretend like they're wealthy are buying these $1 million homes. Those are the people that get hit second in a recession. The people that get hit first are the D-credit buyers that are buying the entry-level homes and the median homes that are in that $250,000 to $350,000 mark. That's the mass majority. When a recession hits, a downturn economic decline hits, that market gets annihilated. That's the mass majority of our HUD homes and our foreclosed homes, our REOs, our bank-owned homes, where people can go in and buy foreclosures. Then it kind of skips over a sector, and there's an exception to that, right? There's some lingering real estate in there, but it skips over a sector and goes to the $1 million homes. That's where people are getting secondary homes, or where people push out of that, where they should be between a $600,000 and $800,000 house. They push that $1 million home, and all of a sudden, because if you make $400,000 a year, how much do most people spend? This is a question you have to ask. They spend about $450,000 to $500,000. If people make $200,000 a year, most of them are spending $300,000 a year. So the reason that people in that $1 million range, 1.1, 1.2, 1.5 million, they get pressed, and they're the second largest quantity of foreclosures, is because those people overspend their capital because they're competing with the Joneses. Those are the people that are competing with the next door neighbors. They want that BMW. They want that Mercedes Benz. They want that 6,000 square foot house or 5,000 square foot house on the golf course that they really can't afford, but they can under the current market conditions. Then when the market compresses, that's the second sector that gets hit. So you want to be right in between that. You want to be outside of the 350 and below homes, and you want to be outside of the $1 million homes. So what is that? $450,000 to $750,000, because those people are typically your empty nesters, your moms and dads, your grandmas and grandpas, the people, the retirees, the people that are a little bit more affluent, the people that are professionals, but they live a nice lifestyle, they have a beautiful home, but they're not pressing into the $1 million homes, but they're sitting into a market sector that makes sense financially for them, where they have something nice. You're not dealing with broke people, but you're not dealing with people that are trying to hit that ultra wealth status, but they really are not even at that $1 million status. And so that market sector, even if the market compresses and there's a downturn, the reason that I tell people, don't make a mistake when you first get into construction and into real estate by buying something too small, and don't make a mistake by buying something too big. If you sit in a sector where you push just outside of the mean, you deal with people with money, people that are stable, people that have a retirement, people that have an IRA, people are baby boomers, the Gen X population, people that have some financial affluency in their back pocket, and they don't get affected as much by downturn economies because they have a bank account and they have income that's coming in either from a fixed income or IRAs or whatever their income is, but they're more stable financially during that sector. Because even in that market, there's larger profitability and there's less risk. Now, if you have to dump that house, and let's say for sake of example, we get to a place where you're gonna make, right now in this current market where things are crazy, you're gonna make $150,000 on your build. And let's say, for sake of example, when you make $150,000 on your build, that you have a 30% margin cut. And let's say you only made $75,000 or $80,000 and you had to take a $40,000, $50,000 hit on the resale of that house. Are you okay making $40,000, $50,000 less or more and still making a profit, is my question to you? Or would you rather go out and play it safe, go build a $300,000 house where you only have a $50,000 profit, and now if the market gets compressed and you have to take a $40,000, $50,000 hit, you make nothing? Or worse yet, you really take a hit and you're in the negative and you can't even close on the home because you're gonna have to come to the table with $10,000. And so some of the mistakes I made in the beginning is people play it safe, they go too small. You wanna get to a place where you don't play it too small and you don't play it too big. You play in a safe sector. So our business model teaches that. Our business model teaches that that business model should be within that profitability. Now, how do you get your contractors? Well, I am a general contractor in most cities. In the cities I'm not, I hire contractors that have experience, and I vet those contractors, and I do what's called a cost plus model, so that I work the costs and expenses myself, and I shop everything from materials to labor and everything, and I pay them, I pay all of the subcontractors, and on top of the subcontractors, I pay the general contractor 15%. So cost plus materials is 15% cost of labor plus materials. And if I do that, I can have this extremely lucrative income that we're able to come in and generate as profitability. Now, what you don't want to do is go in and just hire a general contractor, that what we call a retail general contractor. Because if you hire a retail general contractor, they're the ones that are making all the money on the house, and then you're compressed to maybe 5%, 8%, 10% equity. So if you're in a $450,000 house, your profitability just went down to $45,000. The general contractor, the retail general contractor, the custom builder just took the mass majority of your profitability. So you don't want to make a mistake by hiring a retail general contractor that's doing custom builds and does a bid model. You want to use a cost plus general contractor. One of the other things that I always tell people is people will jump on like Angie's List, Home Advisor, or some of these lead providers. And a lot of these guys that are subcontractors, they're retail guys like I am. Now, there's an exception to that. So what I tell people is come and drive through subdivisions that are being developed, because a lot of these subcontractors and subdivisions that are being developed, and you do have the LGI Homes, the DR Hortons, you do have all of the big mass builders that are mass producing in there. Their subcontractors are volume contractors. They're not retail contractors. They're not going in and doing 100 homes a year that are custom for people. They're going out and doing several hundreds of homes a year, and they're doing mass volume. And so if they're doing mass volume, their prices are lower because they work on a volume model, and they're doing mass production. So all you do is you squeeze your houses into that volume model of theirs, and now your prices get dropped. Now, you might be paying more than the big guys that are doing 200 homes a year with these folks. You might be paying a margin higher than that, but it's still substantially less than going out and using a retail subcontractor. So those are mistakes that most people make when they're first buying land, building houses, and as far as saving money and maximizing their profits. But if you take those small steps and those small precautions when you first get started, those are the first things you're going to need to maximize your profits, play it safe, and to go out and generate some income and some revenue.